Welcome, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Alexander Maxon. I work for the Huntington Society of Canada as our Director of Research and Strategic Partnerships.
I'm Tam Mayuri, Associate Director of Research and Patient Engagement at the Huntington Disease Society of America.
So together, Tam and I work on a collaborative effort between the Huntington Society of Canada and the Huntington Disease Society of America, and it's called HD COPE. By show of hands, how many people here have heard of HD COPE before today? Okay, a decent amount. So that's pretty encouraging. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about it. And today was kind of meant to be a little bit of a recruitment pitch. And we initially had 3 individuals who have been a part of this volunteer group for a few years who were here at the last session. And about half of our presentation was them speaking to their experiences. They've since stepped out, and I'm not sure if they're going to be coming back. So it might be cutting a little bit short. So this is just an introductory slide about us. So we each have over a decade of experience in HD research and now look to help train community volunteers such as yourselves to be able to partake in discussions with pharmaceutical companies. So as I mentioned, together we oversee HD COPE and its international engagement opportunities, and we support collaboration between researchers, clinicians, and the HD community to inform drug development and trial design. HD COPE initially launched about 7 years ago. It was back in 2018. As I mentioned, it was an effort between Huntington Society of Canada and Huntington Disease Society of America, but it is an internationally, globally recognized group. We currently have over 40 members from 12 different countries, including 8 Canadians, including one who's in the room here. Lauren, would you be able to get a mic for Jenna if possible?
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. So we have representatives from Argentina, representatives from Cyprus, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, England, all over the world, a lot from Canada and a lot from the USA. And what we do, is we meet with these pharmaceutical companies who are in the process of starting their clinical trials, whether it's their clinical trial design, and we offer feedback from community members because we think it's really important for them to incorporate the community perspective very early in what's expected of participants in these clinical trials and just research efforts and so on. So we are looking for individuals to join. Constantly. We have a very big need for younger individuals, particularly below the age of 30, specifically because we get different requests from pharmaceutical companies. And these engagements, we have about 3 or 4 a year that we typically get requests for. There are a wide variety. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But sometimes they're looking specifically for individuals who are gene positive for Huntington. Sometimes they're looking specifically for people who are at risk. Sometimes it's just HD family members that they want to talk to, or even caretakers. So it could be a wide range. Sometimes it could be absolutely anyone in the group and they're open to all perspectives, and that's always really nice, but you never know. It could be they're looking for 6 to 10 individuals. It could be they're listening to hearing the perspectives of 40, but we're always looking for more people who are interested in joining so we can help fill those gaps to make sure that we're able to answer all the questions of these companies and organizations.
So we always like to show this slide because it gives a sense of how the companies in the HD space have come up over time. So, a lot of you will probably remember 15 years ago, there would have been like one name on this slide. And it's astonishing, really, how many companies have, not all of these are still active right now, but each one of them has at some point had an interest in the HD space. The other thing that's changed over time is that these companies are recognizing how important it is for them to actually talk to people with the lived experience of HD. So, back then it was like, well, we know what's best, and we think we know, what this drug is going to fix is the thing that we think it should fix, or we're going to run this trial, and you'll follow the rules that we set. But over time, they've come to realize that they really need the input from the actual experts, which is the members of the HD community. And so HD COPE has been part of this the whole time, providing basically consultation to companies as they start to design their clinical trials. And thankfully, we're seeing that it happens more and more. all of the companies that start getting interested in HD are recognizing that they need to speak to the people with the lived experience. So if you didn't catch the presentation this morning, quick overview of the types of clinical trials, the types of approaches that current clinical trials are taking. So we have the idea of Huntington lowering. This lowers the harmful Huntington protein. Somatic instability is another thing that's thought to drive disease. No clinical trials on this yet, but the companies that are developing drugs to target somatic instability are already thinking about clinical trials, and they're already thinking about talking to folks through HD COPE. And then there's a couple other, I just like to organize it this way for presentations because it helps process all of the different types of approaches that are happening. But yeah, so this is probably more relevant to what we're going to talk about today. So folks that participate in HD COPE, what we're looking for is people who either are interested in the clinical trial process, interested in participating in clinical trials, or already have experience. And so just to kind of go through the drug development pipeline and how it gets to that point, you know, the discovery phase is usually the longest. That's when the like nerds in the lab are figuring out all of the, I can say that because I'm one, are figuring out, you know, like the basic biology and how are we gonna, you know, tackle this. And that takes a very long time. And then from there, the companies can come in and take those ideas and design drugs around those solutions. And so the first phase of clinical trial is always very small number of people, and it's just looking at safety. We're not going to know if this drug is helping people. It's just to make sure, this is the first time we're putting it into a person, got to make sure that it's safe. If that goes well, the drug will go to phase 2, a little bit bigger, maybe 50 to 100 people, but again, just the main concern is like, is this safe? Does it cause any problems? Yes.
Yeah, so a little bit about how the feedback of our group is incorporated. So we meet with these clinical partners a couple times a year. You know, maybe we get 3 to 4 engagement requests, all on a volunteer basis. And then they ask us for feedback in a number of different ways. So it could be something related to like educational materials, even around the novel scientific approach or mechanism of action. So for example, we've had companies that have had their drugs approved in one specific country. So like maybe in the US, a drug was approved, and now they're creating a brochure. So when you go to the doctors and you're learning about the drugs, so the doctor can give you a brochure to learn more. And it might just be like pictures and the wording. And they could ask our group for feedback on that and say like, is this picture representative of living with HD? And can you relate to this? Or what do you think about our word choice here? It could be something about gaining an understanding of what represents a meaningful decline. So they could be asking the HD community members, you know, what's important to you for our drug? Like what would be a meaningful difference in your life if this drug was able to work the way we think it is? They could be appraising the willingness of individuals to undergo a novel assessment. So for example, a lot of these companies have different approaches. So we mentioned the neurosurgery, we mentioned the intrathecal injections. Some of them might want to do liver biopsies. So they want to talk to HD community members and be like, okay, we don't have a drug, but we're interested in studying the liver and measuring something about Huntington disease in the liver. Are you willing as a community to come in and undergo a liver biopsy to help advance research? And we're not asking the people to do it, like the people in this group, but they just want their feedback and see, is this something that you would be willing to? They could also be ensuring clarity of language, incorporating HD community perspectives into the design of clinical trials. So for example, this poster here on the right was at a recent HD research conference. And this was around the HDISS, the Integrated Staging System.
I believe it's International Space Station.
There we go. So the Integrated Staging System. So they created a graphic, and that's just to explain to people this new research metric, you know, here are the different stages of Huntington disease for a research point of view. And they say, like, can you relate to us? What are your thoughts on how we worded these and those kind of things? And there's a little box down here that shows like they met with our group, here's the changes we made thanks to the feedback from community members, and so on. And it could also be complete review of clinical trial design, where they will lay out to us, we're planning a clinical trial it'll last 3 years. We're hoping to launch in a year or two. Here's all the different site visits. Like we expect them to come in month 1 and do a blood test. On month 2, we expect them to come in and just do a neurological exam. On month 3, we're going to collect biomarker data and so on. And they'll ask us for feedback. Like, is this too much? Is this too little? What can we hope to get? And those kind of things. So what we do have some expectations for volunteers. They're kind of loose, but listed out here, most of them at least. So I thought it would be important to go through them. Have current or recent experience with HD. That doesn't necessarily mean gene positive yourselves, just someone related to. Have experience living with someone with HD, experience in that sense. Have a basic understanding or interest in research. So about once or twice a year, Tam and I host group meetings where we provide people with updates from these clinical trials. And we talk a little bit about the overall processes. So like, what does this mean? In this way, we try to train the group so that when they go into these conversations with the companies, they know, the language is familiar. They kind of know the approach and what to expect. Are able to communicate in English and attend advisory board meetings. So I mentioned this was an international group, so that kind of applies more to the international people. I assume almost everybody here, if not everybody, can speak English. But some of our members, we just think it's important for them to be able to communicate, because a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, they'll have representatives who speak to us in English. Can commit to at least a 2-year term on HD COPE. That one's probably the loosest criteria here. We, there's some people who come to one engagement, realize it's not for them, and decide to leave. So that's absolutely fine too, or any duration. We're really happy. Can respond to email and requests for information availability in a timely manner. A lot of our communication right now is just done through email. So every time we get a request for a possible engagement, we'll look at what kind of engagement it is. So if they're looking specifically for people who are only at risk, don't know their gene status yet, and they want that feedback from that group, Tam and I will send emails out to everybody on our roster. It's we keep a list of everybody who's interested in participating, and every criteria that kind of helps us to determine, okay, this person would be good for this engagement, this person meets this criteria, and then we'll send out emails. So it's nice when people can get back to us. One of the important things is that you can maintain confidentiality at all times. So a lot of our engagements with these companies, they will ask you to sign CDAs or NDAs, so non-disclosures, because a lot of the information is not yet public yet. And so if they're trying to design their clinical trial, it might not be public information that they have a drug ready for a clinical trial. So they will ask you to sign that you ensure that you're not spreading information that's not in the public domain. So that's really important. And then lastly, are able to provide impartial and situation appropriate feedback and insights. So, we get a wide range of engagements, requests, questions that get asked. We need people who are open and willing to share their experiences, but we also expect group members to understand that not everybody from the HD community has the exact same beliefs as them in every aspect of Huntington disease and living with it. We just ask that people be respectful of others' opinions. If somebody has a differing opinion from you, you can share that, but don't get mad at other individuals who might say something different. So one thing I just wanted to add that we're trying to do, I mentioned a lot of this is done through email right now and virtual calls. Tam and I are trying to get funding right now from external organizations to be able to build a virtual platform. So what we want to be able to do is create a website where people who are interested in volunteering for this can log in with like a username, password, and then get access to a site where Tam and I maybe provide PowerPoints and little instructional modules. To be able to help train people. So if you want to learn more about Huntington lowering, for example, we have like a 6-page PowerPoint that explains Huntington lowering, and here are all the different companies, and here's what makes this company different from this company, and here's what's the same between this company and this company, and so on. So that's something we're trying to do in like message boards. So we have a group of international volunteers, and having a place for them to be able to connect and message each other pretty openly would be really nice too. We are open to feedback. If hearing something like this sparks ideas and you think like, oh, one thing you guys might not have considered is this, I would love to hear about that, because we haven't even started this yet. Yeah, so typically what we do is 1 or 2 internal group meetings. So it'll just be all of us, Tam and I, per year. so one or two per year, where we do a clinical trial update, a little bit about what's happening in the research space, and kind of give those updates to people. Talk about the different companies that are coming with clinical trials soon and whatnot. And then typically we get about 3 to 5 engagement requests from companies per year. They vary quite a bit. It could be circulate the survey amongst the team and get it back to us within a month or something like that. It could be we're going to do a 4-hour Zoom call with specific groups of people on this date and at this time.
And ask you to look at materials ahead of time so you're prepared. And then Alexander and I will sometimes have like a little pre-engagement session to get everybody on the same page. But yeah, overall, it's a handful of hours a year, basically.
Yeah. And historically, we've done quite a few in-person visits. Sometimes it's at these companies' headquarters. Sometimes it's just us getting our group together and then bringing several of the companies to us. Since COVID kind of happened, this has happened less and less frequently because things like Zoom kind of emerged, and everyone just kind of realized, especially for internationally, it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to bring people together on just a virtual call. So we've been doing a lot more Zoom meetings with these sort of engagements. But we're still open to possibly doing in-person engagements in the future. It's kind of at the company's request. So that's typically pretty much everything. We did bring Jenna along with us today. So Jenna's been part of HD Cope for a number of years, and she can offer feedback to you, like what it's like participating in the group. And she has way more insights than I do, because I've only been doing this for about 3 years now.
Yeah, so my name's Jenna. I'm here from Toronto, and I actually ended up getting involved in HD Cope. I think I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I saw like a little advertisement in the magazine, the virtual magazine I had the virtual copy. It was online, and there was like a tiny little, it was like 1/10 of a page ad that they were like looking for members. And I thought it fit in good with my life and the amount of time I had to give. And it was in line with something that I was interested in. I'm very interested in clinical trials and passionate about advocacy. So this was like really shaped my involvement in patient advocacy and how I would get involved in patient advocacy in the years later. But that's initially how I got involved. And
that's the other question.
Yeah.
So like, what inspired you to get involved in patient?
Oh, I said that. Yeah. My passion for advocacy and knowing that like this fit my time. What's one of the most a moment or experience that stands out to you? I don't know. There's so many. I mean, it's really powerful when you meet with a pharma company and they're like, walk away saying how much they've learned from their experience talking to the group. And the group is so diverse. Like you mentioned, like you were on our most recent call, our group is very diverse. We have young individuals that are, in their mid-20s. And then we have individuals like Tim and Rob, who are floating around here at the conference somewhere, who have been involved in the clinical trial landscape for a really long time and have, decades of experience participating in clinical trials. So we're a very, very diverse group, but it's always really powerful to meet with pharma and then them walk away like speechless, like we think of them as experts and they think of us as experts. So it's nice when you walk away and they're like moved by hearing your experience. And, you find your little pockets of community, like, you might be part of YPAD or HDYO and or your chapter, or some board that you sit on, and you find your little pockets of communities that you're a part of and that support you. And for me, HD Cope is one of my communities. And like you're mentioning, we have a little WhatsApp group, and we share all like our greatest experiences together. We share our losses together on there and support one another. Like it's really a really great group of individuals that support each other.
How has being a part of HD Cope affected the way you think about HD research?
I don't know. I mean, it's really well, I mean, it's really changed the way I think about it, because now I have a stronger understanding of it, and I'm really understand the value and importance of patient feedback in the process, and valuing patient engagement from the very, very beginning. Like, it's not just a box that needs to be ticked. It's like patients should be an integrated part of the process. And
how are you doing for time?
I think we're out of time. We're happy to sit and answer more questions if anyone has any.
And if
this is something that's you're interested in participating in, please feel free to come up and let us know. And we're collecting some emails. We can send you more information. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.